day to all of you and greetings from Jerusalem. This is Ido Aharoni. I'm very, very happy to be with you again at the CEWIT Conference today. I was asked to talk about marketing places in the age of coronavirus. And certainly coronavirus is a perfect storm. It is really a major global event and surely will produce a clash between two conflicting forces, one force that wants to restore a new order, to pay more attention to what the universe was trying to tell us, and the other force will try to restore the old order, claiming everything was great before COVID-19. Let's go back to what it used to be. One thing for sure, competition will intensify. Competition between places will intensify. Places were hit hard, especially places that relied on tourism. And that really gives rise to the whole notion of places as brand. What is a brand? A brand is more than a logo, slogan, or just a campaign. A lot of people think of brands in terms of campaigns, but a brand is something deeper than that. A brand is the total sum of associations, emotions, connections, memories that we attach to either a product, a place, a human being, an idea, an ideology, a movement, even a religion is a brand. To simplify matters, a brand is a promise. A strong brand is a promise delivered. For example, Google has a very simple, basic promise to be simple and efficient. Simplicity and efficiency is the tagline, and the landing page with that one single search line is the visual articulation of simplicity and efficiency. Google was the 16th search engine to be introduced into the market, but it uh, captured really the attention and the devotion and the loyalty of users worldwide because of its ability to deliver on its brand image, on its brand promise. And of course, if you saw the TV show The Last Dance, Michael Jordan is one of the strongest brand names in the history of sports because of the way he delivered on his promise. And of course, the United States is a very powerful nation brand that its essential promise is encapsulated and articulated in the Constitution, and it's all about freedom. The rise of place branding, the attempt to improve the positioning of of your place, whether it's a city, a county, or a nation, as opposed to your competition, your what we call in marketing the competitive cluster, is a product of the end of of World War II and also the end of the Cold War. But more importantly, the rise of globalization, urbanization, and again, as I mentioned before, global competition. Why places brand? Not only because they want to bring more tourists. Tourism is very, very important because of the fact that it brings in foreign money, but also it creates a form of a very reliable marketing experience. It's called experiential marketing. But places also want to improve the stature and the strength of the brand because they want to have more political maneuverability, more political goodwill, more political support. They also want to have better exposure to their cultural assets, whether it's their film industry or their literature or their music industry. They want to have a better export brands. They want to improve the performance of their leading export brands. They want to improve trade ties, either through agreements or through bilateral ties. They want to improve the volume and the magnitude of their commercial outreach. They want to engage in exchange programs, students, faculty, youth, seniors, and many other reasons. But these are the main reasons why places want to improve the brand. How do they do it? They have to do it following what I call the R-SWIM methodology, 5 steps, no shortcuts. First, you have to conduct research. The purpose of the research is to identify the DNA of your place. What is your offering? Who are the stakeholders? What is your main advantage? Then, based on that, you develop a strategy. The strategy is the succinct articulation and encapsulation of your brand DNA. For example, in the case of New York, the strategy is the big apple, meaning the big temptation. In the case of Tel Aviv, it's nonstop. In the case of Vegas, it's sin. In the case of Paris, it's romance. In the case of Brazil, it's fun, and so on and so forth. Then you take the strategy. There comes the work plan. You turn it into an affordable, actionable work plan that is well rooted in the budgetary realities of your organization. Then you implement it. The implementation can take 5 years to 20 years. It depends on the budget and depends on the coalition that you're able to construct in order to carry out the plan. And then lastly, you measure your effectiveness. The combination of all five is the textbook methodology that one has to follow. Most places fail because they jump right into the implementation, just as most businesses fail because they don't engage in enough research and they don't come up with a strategy. And if they do come up with a strategy, their employees are unaware of it. And I've seen it many, many times in many organizations. Improving your performance under fire, which is what's happening right now with COVID-19, is a very unique task. What I'd like to do now is to share with you some tips from my many years in Israeli government working on crisis management. And believe me, we've had many forms of crisis to deal with: military, political, foreign policy related, image related, marketing related, and so on and so forth. So what are the tips that I'd like to share with you in the few minutes that I have? The first is engage in critical analysis of your own performance during the previous crisis. Even if the previous crisis came from an entirely different field, entirely different department, it's relevant. It ups the level of energy in the organization and, of course, creates an atmosphere, a climate of preparedness. Adaptability is key. As Peter Drucker said, the best way to predict the future is simply to create it. And we have to remember that those who survive the biggest crisis are not necessarily the strongest or the mightiest or those who had the deepest pockets. It's those who were able to see the winds of change coming, those who were able to change and adapt to the new reality. Regarding COVID-19, look at this crisis as if it's only a dress rehearsal for the big one. It will help getting a clearer picture as to what needs to be done. And when you listen to what Bill Gates was talking about in 2015, the famous video that is being circulated around, I think he wasn't referring to COVID-19. What he was referring was something that was much deadlier than COVID-19. And this is an opportunity for us actually to prepare for the big one. During crisis, we expect superior performance from our brands, from our places, from our leaders. We want an emphasis on safety. We want an emphasis on hygiene. We want an emphasis on law and order, meaning people complying with the rules. We want our leaders, our managers, our political leaders to be transparent to us, and we want them to enhance stability. These are really the 5 pillars of what needs to be done in crisis situation in order to produce superior performance on the part of your place. So countries that are known, places that are known for their lawlessness, right? For their disregard to rules, for their unwillingness to comply, will have a much harder time recovering from the crisis, not only in the front of tourism and business, but also in their ability to attract foreign investment. Right now is the time to build vast network of partnerships. When you do that, not in a transactional fashion, not when you need people, but exactly when you don't need them, then that network is going to be the platform that will carry your brand over to the other side. Do not appear to be transactional. In other words, don't turn to people only when you need them. Turn them exactly when you don't need them. And the most important thing, avoid being Boratized. What is being Boratized? Boratization. Boratization, obviously named after the famous fictitious Kazakhstan character Borat, the Kazakhstan journalist who's traveling in the United States, exposing anti-Semitism, bigotry, and racism. The main reason Sacha Baron Cohen was able to do that to Kazakhstan is because Kazakhstan did not do much proactively to define its own brand offerings to the Western consumer. And Sacha Baron Cohen took advantage of that vacuum. And in marketing, there is no vacuum. And especially during crisis, you have to take the proactive approach and define your own offerings to the market. And more than that, you have to invest in differentiating your offering, make them unique as opposed to the offerings of your competitive cluster. How do you do that? By adopt new delivery system, which is micro-targeting. I still see a lot of people using old school traditional advertising methodologies. Not only that they're very expensive, they're also highly ineffective. There's no more need for blanket advertising. There's no more need to guess. Today, with micro targeting and micro delivery, we know exactly which message goes where, and we know exactly whether it was effective or not. And you do it for 1/10 of the price of traditional delivery systems. So, micro targeting is the way of the future. And there are many companies that have tremendous ability to collect up to 20,000 data points per each internet user. How did Israel brand amid crisis? What we did was we tested the narratives that could work globally, and we came up with three narratives that were attractive and were perceived as reliable and as authentic worldwide. We then crafted an entire plan based on the strategy of the celebration of Israel's creative spirit. We identified the 6 areas where Israel has a clear relative advantage. For example, solutions in the area of the environment and alternative energy, the diversity of the people and the heritage, culture and art, high tech and science. That's a whole startup nation conversation, international aid programs, and of course, lifestyle and leisure. Israel is a powerhouse when it comes to fashion design, to product design, interior design, architecture, food, the Israeli cuisine, and so on and so forth. And then we started celebrating this by sending groups of influentials to experience Israel for themselves. Those were not your people from mainstream media. We sent influencers before any other government did that. I'm talking about 15, 16, 17 years ago, bloggers in the early days of the blog sphere. We built a network of people that were able to make a distinction between the place, the experience, and its geopolitical hardships. And those people basically helped us spread the word around cyberspace about Israel. The most important thing about Israel in times of crisis is the refusal to accept limitations, is the idea that every problem can be solved. You could say that in many ways, Israel was able to succeed in time of crisis because we were branded as a collective of people looking to find solutions to very difficult problems under almost impossible circumstances. This is the part of the DNA that the world finds to be very, very attractive. So it's not just the sheer creativity of the brand, but it's also the creativity combined with resilience. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you so much for your for listening, and I hope that you will find this interesting. Have a great day and have a great conference.